presence of Buddhist Tampa with flags fluttering from rooftops spells a different world. Tibetan refugees are highly religious, and the monks here present sacred music and dance from Tibet on special occasions. Characterized by traditional monastic multiphonic singing, the mass dances featuring the dance of Shanak, otherwise known as the Black Hat Dance, and the Lama Dance recreate the ambience of their homeland. These forms give them the opportunity to maintain and express their unique culture. The Black Hat Dance was originally performed in the 9th century in Tibet in response to an evil king, Lang Dharma. Lang Dharma was a greedy, power-hungry ruler who attempted to drain Tibet of Buddhism. A devout practitioner, Lalungpal Dorji, was determined to subdue the evil king. He went to Lhasa wearing a black hat and a long black cloak in which he concealed a bow and an arrow. There he danced in front of the king in an attempt to portray the sufferings of the Tibetan people. Feeling great compassion towards the king, who was going to suffer immensely as a consequence of the sins he was committing, Dorji shot an arrow at the heart of Lang Dharma. The king was dead on the spot. Peace and harmony was restored in Tibet. The present-day performances of the Black Hat Dance are intended to abolish obstacles and restore faith in the Dharma for those who witness the dance. The performances to this day require the same ritual preparation and concentration on compassion as was required originally by Pal Dorji. It's believed that the faithful who observe the dance will be cleared of both inner and outer obstacles. It's pertinent to mention here that the Lama dances are performed on the 28th and 29th of the last month of the year before Losar, the Tibetan New Year. There are 2 days of dancing, the first in elaborate robes, the second in full mask and ornate costume. Leading up to Losar, the whole monastic community is involved in the most expansive, elaborate prayer session of the year. Lasting 8 days with an average of 19 hours per day, the Lama dances are an intrinsic part of the prayer meeting. However, they are not performed on their own as a form of entertainment. The Lama dance transposes the New Year prayers into movement. In the dance, the protectors cut through any obstacles in the coming year, which, on a deeper level, means cutting through the ego, the source of all suffering.
This ceremony involves the prayer flags, singing of mantras, and ritual ceremonies, all the musics. This is all to invoke the inner goodness So when we invoke inner goodness, everything becomes cause for celebration. See, there's nothing, something bad. Everything can be a celebration.
The life of the Buddhist monk involves radical simplicity, contentment with the barest requisites, and the need to be patient in difficulty. The monastic lifestyle places the monk in dependence on the generosity and kindness of others. It imposes upon him an intricate code of discipline. Further, it's designed to foster the essential renunciant virtues of simplicity, restraint, purity, and harmlessness. These virtues provide a sound basis for the higher attainments in concentration and insight. The virtues are essentially stages in progressive purification of the mind and the deepening of insight. The day begins at 5:30 a.m. and continues until their final studies are over by 8:30 p.m. When a monk is adept at the studies, one may choose to enter the Shedra monastic college or the 3-year retreat. When Buddhism was introduced to Tibet, it linked itself to Bon, the local religion, and became its own version of Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. It's also called Vajrayana Buddhism, and along with Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism, is considered one of the 3 main branches of Buddhism. Tibetans' lifestyle and cultural identity are largely based on Tibetan Buddhism. Vajrayana is an extension of Mahayana Buddhism since it differs in its practices rather than its philosophy. The Mahayana has 2 practice paths: the Sutrayana method of perfecting good qualities and the Vajrayana method of taking the intended outcome of Buddhahood as the path. For Tibetans, mere physical and economic survival is not the only desirable end of their life. They are conscious of protecting and preserving the culture which is unique in itself. Religious traditions and rituals are an inherent part of the Tibetan society as it has influences on their day-to-day lives. The Tibetans' dedication to their religion is discernible as we find a member of each family embracing monkhood. In spite of their preference for jeans over traditional tunics, Tibetan culture is carefully preserved for future generations by the Norbulinka Institute, set up and managed by a trust created by the Dalai Lama himself. The Central Tibetan Administration TA has established a separate department of religion and culture. This department seeks to protect, preserve and promote Tibet's spiritual and cultural heritage.
You see spirituality everywhere, in life, in color, in movement, in the way you talk, in the way you walk, in the way you dream even. There's a spirituality coming alive. Not something that you only study in a book. I think that's something different. What you study and what you memorize in the book and what you do in everyday life. Sometimes there's a gap. Some people study very well Dharma or religion, memorize a lot. But in everyday life, they are very different. They can be very, very angry, very mad, very like, So it doesn't, how to say, integrate properly. So our idea is, of course, we have the monastery, temple, to train the monks into their philosophy, into their meditation, basically making them touch their heart, the heart of humanity, heart of wisdom and compassion, according to the teaching of the Buddha. That's what they are trying to touch. By touching that, so that they can live in real life, every day-to-day life, compassionate life. So what you see, all this is a display, you see, of that prayers, that spirituality of life.
Dojo pola boche tate yang la dojo yauche